Good morning, beautiful humans. I have been officially invited by a friend and, a little group of friends to go on this 30-mile hike in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. It's called the Pemi Loop. It goes over about 7 mountains. Um, and you know what? I did one mountain in the White Mountains last September, and I thought I was going to die. It was a very interesting experience, but very eye-opening because, I really wasn't trained enough to really successfully do the hike that I did. And it really like opened my eyes to, wow, like the lifestyle that I want to live, like I'm really not in physical shape yet to be doing it. So, last few months, I've really been dialing into my hiking and just getting out more, really have brought to my attention that strength and balance, with my physical body are things that I'm working on, which interestingly, the internal is always reflecting on the external and then vice versa, right? They're just constantly pushing back and forth to each other. So, strength and balance are also things really when I thought about it that I'm working on internally as well for myself, coming more into balance in that masculine, feminine, in the way I live my life, the way I communicate, all of these things, just finding that place of balance. Like, what is that? And even when I think about balance, right, I often think of like the pendulum swings both ways and then comes center. But even when we're coming in center and coming more into balance, I don't believe that it ever fully stops, especially when we're talking about masculine, feminine energy, is that we kind of just like, right, it's not as extreme, but we do have this ability to shift back and forth. And that's balance, right? Is when we're hovering just right around center and able to kind of move and flow into one and then the other. And so as I work on that, like I do feel how that inner trust and strength and balance is reflected externally because when I go out on hikes now, I feel more confident in my body. I'm also making better eating choices, right? And like really looking at those habits, and it just is really happening naturally. It's not a diet, it's not like anything like that. It's just on some level I'm wanting to make different choices, so I am making different choices, and that feels really good and aligned for me. So I contemplate this 30-mile hike over 2 days. Okay, he wants to do it over a 2 day span, and I'm like, can we do like 3 days? Like 3 days I feel like really confident that I could pull that off. For some reason, shifting from 3 to 2 days makes me feel uncomfortable, makes me feel scared and unprepared. I also like kind of horrified myself by checking out those all trail maps reviews, and people, doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. Everyone says how difficult it is, and I appreciate their transparency because that's what I want to know. I want to know exactly what I'm getting into, right? And so I contemplate this. How do we decide? Here's the actual question is like, how do we decide if something's an aligned choice for us? And how do we decide it's in the highest good, right? And that we can quite physically handle that challenge and opportunity coming our way. So the plan is for this group of friends to go in August to do this hike. And so I think, it's May now. I've got May, June, July, 3 months. 3 months to get dead ass serious about this. Does that feel in alignment? Kind of. Like I hate to say it out loud, but yeah, it does. There's that part of me that is like kind of scared a little bit of like the physical challenge and also the heights. When I did Mount Washington last year, like I really was feeling some kind of way up on the side of a fucking mountain. And really what that was like more so on the descent piece of it. And then now I think contemplate that with a 30 at least 30-pound pack on my back. We're carrying all the gear, the tent, the fucking sleeping bag, the food, the water, all the things we need for those 2 days. And I'm just like, okay, that's a lot. And so I think about, well, what would it take, right, if I wanted to back into that goal of hiking 30 miles in 2 days? It's about 10,000 elevation gain. Oh, collectively over those 7 mountains. Okay. It's not just like one shot going up 10,000 feet, but over the 7 peaks, 10,000 feet. And so a little bit under 10,000. And so I think about what are the steps that I would have to take, right? Because, and here let's tie in like manifestation. If I want to manifest this hike for myself, what are the steps that I would have to take to get there? Like when we think from that logical standpoint, like I'm not really, I don't know, I'm not totally convinced that I personally would be able to just meditate my way and then like go through this hike, right? That's a lot of times what we think about when we think about manifestation is just like meditation and just like attracting and like these ethereal concepts. And it's like, well, what the fuck does that really mean? Like, it's one thing for me to meditate on doing a 30-mile hike, right? A very strenuous hike, but also like let's think about the body. Our body's our temple. And so I want to respect and honor that. And I know that I've got some work to do with my bod. Like, and that's not a bad thing. It's just needing to build the endurance and strength and balance to be able to do that. So, breaking it down, like whatever your goal may be, backing into that ultimate thing and what are the steps that I would have to take? Okay. So for me, it would be starting like this week, choosing to go on longer and more strenuous hikes now and pushing myself a little bit more every time I go out, either going for distance or for like endurance, right? Time or distance or both at the same time, let's be honest. Right. And so I think about that. I'm like, okay, so how often, how many times a week would I need to be doing this? I'm going to say 3 to 4 times a week. Then, really thinking about that piece of it is that realistic to fit into my lifestyle? And is that something I want to commit to for the next 3 months? Right. I have a mentor that talks about doing things for 100 days and seeing how it changes your life. So my challenge to me would be commit, it's around the 100-day mark, right? We're looking at about 3 to 3.5 months into when this would be happening. That's about 100 days, right? And so is that a commitment I want to make? Like I do feel excited and like there's some expansion feelings in that. And then I also feel completely horrified of like, well, can I actually do it? Like I can go around hiking and doing all the things, but that's really no match to what that's going to be so in August. So I contemplate, right, like where is that balance, right, that internal balance of making these choices that's right for us. I know I can do it. It's will I do it? Will I overcome those fears and those blocks to be able to do it? Right. And the same for you, whatever your goal is, right? We often just want things to appear by magic or assume that they will, or sometimes things do happen seemingly by magic and just drop into our life. And we don't give ourselves the credit for everything that we've done to position us to receive what it is that we want. And so it's very interesting, looking at goals from this place of how do we break it down into those action steps, those feasible action steps that aren't as scary. Like I know, like I'm literally running through it in the background in my head of like, okay, this would be the timeline, and I would go up to New Hampshire and hike one of those 4,000 foot mountains about a month before, maybe 3 weeks before the final trip, right? Like these indicators. And then, like, I already know in the area of like, okay, what are the hikes? How can I progressively go into the more difficult ones, right? Um, and I see it. I see it all kind of just like unfolding in my head of like, right, yeah. So we start now, starting today. I'm going to go for probably a little bit of a lighter hike walk today, um, because I have been hiking this week already. Right. We want to let our bodies rest. But, for me, it would be a commitment to be at least walking, hiking in some regard every single day, getting movement in, we'll say, every single day. And then having 3 to 4 times a week challenging hikes, right? So then there's that rest in between, right? So we'll see. What are your goals? How can you back into making that your reality, right? Because manifestation is all about taking those action steps. It's all about creating that for yourself. right? It's positioning yourself for the outcome that you want. And it's not to say that it's going to happen exactly as you think. You may change your mind, you may like adjust focus, right, as you go. But we have the power to create what we want. It's not like they're asking me to go hike the Appalachian fucking Trail, right? In its entirety, which is about a 6 month journey from, I think, like what, Georgia to Maine. And it's not that. This is like a little piece of that, right? So being realistic for what we can do, right? Be really honest with yourself, because there's a lot of times in life where I didn't achieve goals because number one, I wasn't really aligned in that place to do it yet. And number two, it was really like when I look back and reflect, it was asking too much of myself, right? Putting too much on my plate because what was my plate was already full. And then I was like, oh, let me add this other thing. And then how many times do we disappoint ourselves because we're not being realistic? So, also, if you have a goal that you wholeheartedly want to achieve and that it is expansive to your soul, what do you need to take off your plate to make that happen? Like, I'm thinking now, even like I had friends that wanted to meet up this morning for coffee, and I was like, dudes, I got plans. And by plans, I mean I'm taking my ass out for a hike because that is a priority for me. It's also a priority, like I can hike any time of the day, right? But I also know that later I have calls from about 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. There's a few breaks in between, but I'm prioritizing myself and my goals and what's important to me, right? And those values. So choosing myself, like, can you choose you consistently on the way to that goal you want to achieve? Yeah, you can. And we make sacrifices along the way in our highest good, right? So really think about, what are you wanting to achieve? It doesn't matter. It could be big, small, anywhere in between. And back into it and creating those action steps and then feeling into it, right? Because maybe now is not the time. Like, maybe we also have to admit, like, it's not the time for that particular goal. Is there maybe part of that that we can focus on? And you'll know, you can feel it in your body, that level of alignment and expansion versus that constriction. And also know the difference, begin to know how it feels of like, I fucking feel kind of scared about this potential 30-mile venture, but I know that I'm capable. And I know that it just feels scary because I've never done it before, and it's farther and higher and longer, right? Time wise as well, than I've ever done before. Of course, it feels scary. Who would I be if I actually did that and succeeded? Right? That's the big thing, is that ego part of us is so used to being comfortable where we are. Used to be comfortable like crushing all of like the mountains in this area, which are really just sort of like large hills. Let's be honest. I live in Connecticut. I've done the highest peak in the state already last week. So now I'm moving onward and upward, right? Looking for more challenges to really get into that mindset and that physical space of being able to do it. So consider all of these things on your way to your goal, because you can do it. If it's something that came to you, you have the capacity to achieve it. What are the action steps you need to do? What do you need to clear out of your life to make it happen? And that's really the space that gets fucking tricky, right? Like, I had to say no to some friends today to make space for this goal of more balance and strength and physical endurance. Whether I do that final hike or not, those three things are goals of mine anyways. And I had the intention set already that this morning I was going for a walk. And so I'm going to do that, right? Can you choose you over everyone else? Can you choose your goals? Can you really connect to why that's important to you and follow through with it, right? What do you need to do to make space for follow through and consistency? These are all really important questions to reflect on. Meditate. That's where our meditation comes in handy. We can reflect on that and really connect to our higher self and receive those answers. All right. If you have goals, feel free to share them in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. You know mine, my big one for the summer, right? We'll see. We'll see. And with that, lots of love to you guys. That's all I got for you today. And I'll catch you on the flip side.